بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يريد الله ليبين لكم ويهديكم سنن الذين من قبلكم ويتوب عليكم والله عليم حكيم. والله يريد أن يتوب عليكم ويريد الذين يتبعون الشهوات أن تميلوا ميلا عظيما. يريد الله أن يخفف عنكم وخلق الإنسان ضعيفا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما. ومن يفعل ذلك عدوانا وظلما فسوف نصليه نارا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا. إن تجتنبوا كبائر ما تنهون عنه نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما. ولا تتمنوا ما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسبن واسألوا الله من فضله إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما. ولكل جعلنا موالي مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون والذين عقدت أيمانكم فآتوهم نصيبهم والذين عقدت أيمانكم فآتوهم نصيبهم إن الله كان على كل شيء شهيدا. صدق الله مولانا العظيم وبلغ رسوله النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم.
Jazakallah, brother Faiz. Allah give you a reward for that. So we are continuing with Surah Nisa, and Surah Nisa being Madani Surah, we first in the earlier part of Surah Nisa, we read the commandments regarding the distribution of wealth after somebody's death or will, and also other aspects of society, uh, the family life, because society is just like a biggest of the wall is made up of individual bricks. Similarly, all the societies are made up of individual people, individual families that make a bigger family. So in Surah An-Nisa, it has been clearly discussed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his first, in 26th of ayat that we recited, Yuridullah liyubayyina lakum wa yahdiyakum sunanal lazina min qablikum wa yatubu alaykum. So earlier in Surah Fatiha, we read that when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dua, that guide us to the path of those people you have bestowed, blessings upon them, and not of those whose wrath came on, your wrath came on them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to guide you, and guide you by telling you the stories of the previous prophet, previous pious people, so you can also learn some wisdom and follow the righteousness from those people. So all the Quran description is of those people from the past. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had, so we read the stories of Adam alayhi salam, we read stories of Nuh alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam, all the blessed prophets alayhi salam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to describe the teachings, their life stories, so we can learn from them and we can get the inspiration from. And Allah is all knowing and all wise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in another ayah, Wallahu yuridu an yatubu alaykum wa yuridu allazina yattabu shahawata an tamilu mailan azima. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give a special blessing on his creation. But what deviates, what brings the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is those people who follow the temptation. And what are the temptations? In Sufi scholars have described a particular term, they call it taskiya nafs. That means to control your desires or to control yourself, self-control. And the way it works is shaitan doesn't come and forcibly force you to do something bad, but it attacks mainly from your own self, because yourself is an basically a package of temptations. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do not follow your temptation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to be merciful on you, but those people, the shaitan wants to deviate you from this rahim, from this blessing, by letting you follow your own temptation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described, some of the scholars have even described it, your nafs, as a wild horse. A wild horse can kick you and hurt you and all that, but once you tame it, you can ride on it and get many benefit from it. So such is the case of your nafs or yourself. So a prime example of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala train in our religion tells you to train our nafs. And how does it do? A prime example of that is our fasting. In the month of Ramadan, we fast. So all the temptations, whether it's in terms of the marriage life, in terms of our favorite food, we restrain from it. So what we do, we subdued our own cravings and our own temptations with the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to do a mercy on you. He doesn't want you to deny you of those, marriage pleasures or the food pleasures. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be a pious. Allah does not want you to do that. So the same fruit, if your favorite food is banana or apple, that was haram in the fasting time. The same thing when you do it in iftar and break fast with that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you blessing for that. Such is the case. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat is describing Allah wants to do the rahmah. Allah doesn't want you to do the hard life and all that, but He wants you to be a pious and a disciplined person. And those people who follow their temptations instead. So those people who follow the temptation, it is the minor form of shirk. Because when you commit yourself to Islam, when you say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and you enter it, so you are making an oath to obey the command of Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the latter part of Quran described those people who follow their temptations. It is a minor. There are two kinds of shirks: major shirk and minor shirk. Major shirks are described in Surah Ikhlas. Anybody who associate any deity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is committing a shirk. This is first kind of shirk akbar, the bigger shirk. Second form of shirk is like Surah Ikhlas says, Qul huwa Allahu ahad. So Allah subhanahu, the deviation from that, if anybody believes in any other deity other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shirk. Allahu samad. Samad means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond any needs. He doesn't need any of His creation. He doesn't need what we need, like we need food, we need sleep, we need that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond that. So this is second form of shirk, is to associate any needs or wants with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If somebody says Allah ate something or Allah slept, this is a second form of shirk. Third form of shirk is anybody associate any relations that, as we know, lam yalid wa lam yulad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Ikhlas is describing that he is not a begotten or begetted, like nobody bore him or he did not bore. So all the relations that emerge from bearing somebody, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is beyond that. So He doesn't have any father, He doesn't have any mother, doesn't have anybody associate any human relations with that says Allah has a brother, Allah has a sister, Allah has a son. So he's committing a shirk. And walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Anybody make a picture of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or make a statue and say this is my God, so he's committing shirk. These are the four major kind of shirk. But there's a minor kind of shirk. In minor kind of shirk, follow your own temptations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to abstain from adultery, and he's, instead of following the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's following his own temptation and all that. So this is a minor form, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it in this. So the remedy of that is tazkiyah nafs. Shaitan attack you through your own nafs, because what he did to Adam alayhi salam and Bibi Hawa, he did not put the forbidden fruit in the mouth of any of Adam alayhi salam, but he slowly worked on them. That he slowly work on them and says that okay, this is the most tasty of all the fruits. You have to have one of that and all that. And that's how slowly he worked on them a lot. So we are being the children of Adam alayhi salam and Bibi Hawa. Shaitan work on us as well. Like slowly it tempts you to our own temptations, to our own cravings. And remedy of that is fasting and following the. Another form is the sleep is also the form of nafs. That our sweet sleep. We do not want to wake up early in the morning for Fajr or Tahajjud. So Shaitan comes and work with our nafs. Says, oh, what a sweet sleep you have. Just sleep for 10 minutes and then you wake up for your Tahajjud or Fajr. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to not to follow the temptations of your own desires and all that. So you break your sweet sleep and get up for Tahajjud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you a great reward for that. So good thing about nafs is that it becomes a habit. For example, a person who wants to engage in the tahajjud and want to make a routine. So initially it is very hard. Your sleep in the morning, it is not easy to break your sleep, and shaitan works through your nafs with that. Oh, just sleep for 10 minutes and either. But once you force yourself to get up for tahajjud, that becomes a routine and habit. So that's what scholars have described it. The good thing about nafs, because a horse, when it is wild, it can kick you, it can throw you off from your back and all that. but when it becomes, so such is the case with your nafs. So it is important not to listen to you, but rather tame it, and it becomes your friend rather than enemy. So yuridullah an yukhaffifa ankum wa khuliqal insana da'ifa. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Allah ta'ala wants to make it easy on you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, when advising us or commanding us not to follow our temptation, He doesn't want any punishment on us. He doesn't want us to miss out on all the fun and the good food and all the good things. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make it easy on you, because as I just described it, Allah has indeed made human beings very weak. My father described this ayat to me, and he says, what does it mean by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created human being weak? What does it mean? He described it by saying that, human being is very weak emotionally. Like there are people who can lift 300 pounds in a bench press, and they can lift 50 pounds in the dumbbells. They are very strong people. But all the humans, emotionally, they are very sensitive. If somebody said something very harsh to them, that clicks with them for a long time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing human being as very weak, emotionally weak. And this is also a wazifa. Wazifa means this is also if somebody feels overwhelmed, or somebody has said anything hurtful to them and he wants to get rid of those emotions, so he should recite 11 times Durood Sharif. And this ayat number 28, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be easy. So if he feels, a person is feeling that he is overwhelmed by all the things, people are saying harsh things to him, so he should recite 11 times Durood Sharif and recite this ayat 100 times, and then 101 times, and another 11 times Durood Sharif, and tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, you are saying that human being is weak. I'm one of the weak human beings. Please take away all my hardships and all that. And it will have a very immense effect. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with His immense power, will remove all the hardships on you. So this is a very, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and He knows He created us weak. And as my father described this ayat to me, it is emotionally a human being is very weak. And the next ayat, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la taqulu amwalukum bainakum bil batili. So, oh you people, do not take money from each other by falsely, and unless it is done by a mutual agreement and through the trade. Say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wala taqtulu anfusakum, and do not kill yourself. Inna Allaha kana bikum rahima. And when we are talking about society, which Surah Nisa is describing how to make society better, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly saying that do not engage in illegal activities in which you cheat somebody, you take something from fraud with another people, unless so same goes with the inheritance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again describing the rights of orphans and the weaker gender, which is women. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing, because this is a temptation. Usually what happens in many societies, especially back home in India and Pakistan, when somebody passes away, brother takes away all the properties and all the wealth and deprive their own sisters of any of the inheritance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding again and again, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even saying that, do not take away. Inna Allaha kana bikum rahima. Allah is the most merciful. So if you are just, if somebody passes away, and if you pass on the distribution as according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by the will of the deceased person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all forgiving and very. And وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ عُدْوَانًا وَظُلْمًا فَسَوْفَ نُصْلِيهِ نَارًا. So anybody who is engaged in this activity, that he grab the possessions and money of the other person through false, falsehood or through lies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cast him in the hellfire. And for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is a very easy thing. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam described that, do not take anything unlawfully from anybody, because everybody has a nasib. Nasib means all the people have their provision written down on that. There's a one famous incident of Sayyidina Ali, karamallahu wajhu, that when one day he went for a namaz and he had a horse. So when he went to the masjid, what he did, there was a person standing outside of masjid. So he said that, "Oh, could you take care of my horse while I pray in the masjid?" So the person said, "Okay." So when Hazrat Ali went for namaz, he performed his namaz, and when he came out, he saw his horse. It was tied to something like a tree or something, but the saddle of the horse was missing. So he realized the person he trusted to safeguard his horse, he took away his saddle, and so he started looking for his saddle. He went to marketplace, and he started looking around, and in one of the store he found his saddle, and he realized that it was his saddle. So Sayyidina Ali said to the store owner that, "This is my saddle." So he described the store owner that, such person with description. He described the person who sold him the saddle. He said that he sold me that saddle. So Hazrat Ali asked that person, the store owner, that how much did the person sold you the saddle for? He said 5 dirham or 5 dinar, something like that. So Hazrat Ali laughed and said, "That's what I wanted to pay this person 5 dinar or dirham for watching over my horse. But instead of, like he had intended, so in his nasib there was 5 dirham, but instead of getting reward from Hazrat Ali of 5 dirham, he rather do it illegally and made his money haram way by stealing the saddle. And so such is the case. We have to realize that we all have nasib, and that doesn't escape us. And that's the advice of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that do not engage in anything, devouring anything haram, because everybody has a nasib, everybody has a portion in their life which he gets it. So, and this next ayat, in tajtanibu, if you avoid the major sins, and which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said not to do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remove all your minor sins and will enter you into a very place of highest honor. So while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, and he also knows our weaknesses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a very easy way that, their sins are divided into two kinds, major sins and minor sins. What are the major sins? Major sins are some associating anybody with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I described those 4 things that you can associate with that. And another major sin is committing adultery. Another is consuming alcohol, or being disobedient to your own parents, and dealing with riba, taking or borrowing or lending money on interest. So these are the list of few, and also going to a fortune teller. This is all considered a major sin. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a very easy way out, that you abstain from the major sins or the kabair. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive and erase all your minor sins, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows us, that we are humans. So we should try that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all merciful. And one of the major problem that people deviate from their honest living is a jealousy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in next ayat will say, do not wish what other people have been given. So jealousy is a major source of people going astray from the honesty and the righteous path. If somebody has a car that can take you from point A to point B, somebody has a dwelling, he can live comfortably in his house, and somebody has enough money to feed his family, all that. But what happened? A jealousy sets in. He says, "Oh, my neighbor has a house which is much bigger than me. He has a car much expensive than me. His children wear much better clothes than me." So that deviates from that. Allah subhanahu, that is his portion. Allah Ta'ala has given if you realize in this world, there would always be people who are richer than you. Like even if you have $1 billion, there are people in this world who has $2 billion. And there will always be people who are poorer than you. So we should always look at the people who do not have what we have. There are some people who are struggling to find a piece of bread for their family, for their children. There are some people who are in the racks trying to cover their body. There are some people, who are trying to find a shelter under the tree. So, as I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that do not get jealous of, do not become, envious of those people who have more wealth, more money than you. Allah has given a nasib for everybody. Even in the after our judgment day, and inshallah we will go to Jannah. Just like in this world, we have ranks. Like somebody is middle class, somebody is upper middle class, somebody is millionaire, somebody is billionaire. So we'll be in the Jannah. In Jannah, there are some people who are in the basic, level of Jannah. Then there will be higher level of Jannah, and the highest for the common people would be the Jannat al-Firdaus. But in the Jannah too, the high-ranking people of Jannah, they can come to the lower-ranking people of Jannah, but the lower-ranking people cannot go because they will get jealous. Like if a person who is in the basic form of Jannah and he goes to Jannat al-Firdaus, he will think, oh, I don't have this and this. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set up in the Jannat system that people can meet each other, but lower-ranking Jannati cannot meet the higher-ranking Jannati. So this is, and among Jannat al-Firdaus, there's the highest Jannat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made his prophet very humble. He said that it is reserved for one prophet. And he said that, I hope that it could be mine. And that Jannat, the Jannat, highest form of Jannat is Firdaus, and among Firdaus, there's a one Jannat called Fadila. So after the Azan, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Fadila and Wasila. So that's what we are asking for. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that anybody who make this dua, my shafaat is compulsory on him. So we were describing that, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing. Do not be jealous of the people who have more worldly wealth than you. And was'alullahu min fadlihi. And ask Allah for his mercy and his bounty. Inna Allah kana bikulli shay'in alima. And Allah is the all-knowing. So the term for be happy at what you have is called qanaat. Qanaat means be happy over what you have it. Because if you keep pursuing the money, chasing money is like chasing your own shadow. When you run toward your shadow, it runs away from you. And when you run away from your shadow, it chases after you. Such is your chase with money. Like you can never have enough money. Because if you have $1 million, you will wish for 2 million, then 3 million and all that. So the remedy for that, one day a person came, he was an Arabi. That means he was a person living in the desert or outside, not a very literate person. And he asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, tell me some things, I become very rich. So he said, adopt qanaat, means be happy with the wealth you have and you will be rich. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that. So this is an important aspect for that. And somebody is qani, or means happy with the wealth he has, he will not deviate from the right path. He will not say, oh, my legal ways of earning money is not adequate, so I should do something illegal. He will never, shaitan will never be able to tempt him to go towards that road. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna Allah kana aliyan kabira. So, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is again describing in this next ayat that the portions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allocated after the parents passing away or their death, and give everybody their due share. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing, Inna Allah kana ala kulli shay'in shahida. Allah is all witnessing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing. So we should be careful that it is compulsory upon us to make a will, and make a will according to the teachings of Islam. And if somebody needs a help, he can call me and I will try to help him how to make Islamic will. So inshallah, we'll end here, and if there's any questions or comments, inshallah, I will discuss that.